Are you looking for a healthy and delicious dinner recipe that you can make throughout the week that's also really good on your budget? Well, we are going to be making stuffed bell peppers today, and it only costs $2.50 a serving. Yes, that good. That is cheaper than eating out or even going to McDonald's. So let's get started. First up, we are gonna want to preheat our oven because we are going to bake our peppers first for about 20 minutes before we stuff them and put them all together, because our peppers need to cook a little bit so they're not so hard when we go to actually eat them and all the things. So next, we're going to cut up our peppers and put them in our 9x13 baking dish. And I always spray my glass baking dish with avocado spray, just so they don't burn and stick to the bottom while cooking. Okay, so we've got our nice peppers here. Trying to find the ones that have the best full shape to them so they'll fit the peppers or the insides better. Okay, so how I do this, I know some people, people kind of tend to do it differently, but I always just chop off the top and then I cut them in half. And so then you have two sides that are stuffed. That way it's easier to stuff them and make sure that they get even cooking versus just cutting the tops off and then having the pepper. And then I just think it's easier. You can do it the other way if you want. Ideally, I would love to have peppers that are perfectly shaped and all, really big and round, but that's just not how they grow. They grow in odd shapes. They grow in, just like people, we're all shapes and sizes. If you have perfect peppers, that's great, but you don't worry about, oh, they need to be perfectly round or perfectly this tall. It'll work. So our oven went off. Our oven is fully preheated. So we are going to put these in there, and I'm gonna just do a little bit over the top and a little bit of salt and just sprinkled. Okay, so these are gonna go in the oven for 20 minutes. So while we wait for that, we are gonna start our rice because that takes a full 30 minutes. So we wanna make sure and get that started pretty early in the process. And our rice bag. And you guys know me, I gotta clean while I cook. So we're gonna put this the side because we will be cutting an onion later. So don't put your cutting board away because you can use it again. And then I am gonna save these tops. I'm gonna cut around and keep this portion of the pepper because that's really good. You can saute it when you make scrambled eggs. And I just like having extra pepper in our fridge just for different occasions when I need them. That way, less food waste. Okay, onto our rice. So we need 2 cups of water, and then we're gonna set this on the stove to start boiling. And we have 1 cup of uncooked rice that we're gonna add to our sifter, and then we're gonna rinse it. So you always want to rinse your rice first. Our water isn't quite boiling yet, but that's okay. We're gonna add our rice. And then once you put the lid on, you don't wanna remove the lid. Also, one tip about cooking rice, if you're not super comfortable with it, I know I wasn't in the beginning, make sure once it starts boiling that you immediately turn it down because you want all the water to stay in there. You don't want it to evaporate. I did that once and I just went to chopping whatever and finishing the rest of my recipe and totally forgot that my rice was over here boiling away. And then a lot of the water was gone, it was burnt to the bottom. So just make sure once it gets to a boil, you turn it down and then you just let it sit for 15 minutes. Now we are going to work on the stuffing of our bell peppers. So first we need to chop up an onion, and we're gonna do half of an onion. And honestly, this recipe is probably a lot easier if you kind of prep it a couple days in advance. So you can cook, pre-cook your peppers a couple days in advance. You can pre-cook all the stuffing that's gonna go in there. Or even if you're just like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna make bell peppers. So tonight I'm gonna make sure my rice is cooked, my peppers are, you know, they got the 20 minutes in the oven. I'm gonna dice up my onion, make sure my meat is sitting out to thaw. So even the night before, if you just kind of like prep all the ingredients so you don't have to cook the rice or chop the onion the day of, will make it a lot faster and easier. Because if you're like me and you work a full-time job, which I would assume most of you do, you don't have like 5 hours at night to, you know, hang out with your kids, prep food, do the dishes, all the things. So this one would be a lot easier if you prep some of the ingredients beforehand. Onions, my goodness. Come on, skin, come off. Before we officially move over to our stove to cook the meat and onions and everything, I'm going to shred our cheese. So that way we don't have anything else we need to cut or prep. We've got it all done. We can throw it together once our hamburger is baked and we'll be good to go. So our cheese, we want 1 to 1.5 cups of cheese. And my family, it was always just, you know, shred a bunch of cheese and whatever you have is good. Like the more cheese, the better basically. So if you want more cheese, that is totally fine. I will not judge because I'm the same way. Our peppers are done. So we are going to take them out of the oven and just let them sit until we're done making all the stuffing for our peppers. Our timer also went off for the rice, so we're just gonna move this to a back burner that is not hot, shut our stove off, and let it sit for another 15 minutes. And don't take the lid off. After 15 minutes, we'll take a fork to it and fluff the rice, and then it'll be done. Since our hamburger is getting really well cooked and it's almost done, we're going to add our onion into the mix and start that sauteing with our hamburger. Our hamburger and onions are done, so we're gonna add some garlic cloves. But first, before we do that, our rice is ready, so we need to fork the rice. And you do this so then it doesn't get all sticky and just stay in like a massive clump. All right, let's add our garlic. So we're gonna make a little hole in our hamburger in the middle of our pan. Add a tiny bit of olive oil because you don't want your garlic to burn. And then we're gonna mince our garlic right into that spot. And you can do more or less garlic. If you want 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, you can, or if you only want 1 or 2, if you're not big garlic people, that's totally fine too. My family really enjoys garlic, so I did 3. One of the cloves was really big, so kind of like 4 cloves. So whatever your guys' preference is. And then you don't want it to sit here by itself for too long, just until it gets fragrant where you can really like, oh, I can smell the garlic. That means it's good. Usually takes 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And then you can stir it all in. You just kind of want it to get cooked and fragrant, and then you stir it. Garlic can burn pretty easily, and that's also why we do it last. So this is smelling really good, so I'm gonna stir it in with everything else. And then we are gonna add an entire 12 to 16 ounces of tomato sauce. So this is obviously home canned, but if you buy it in the store, usually they come in 12 or 16 ounce jars. And then we're gonna measure 1 to 2 cups of rice. We're gonna do 2 cups. So then we also have all of our seasonings. So if you don't have like garlic powder and onion powder as substitutes instead of chopping up actual onion and garlic. If you don't have that, but you have the powders, that's fine. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and there's not much left in this, so I'm just gonna dump the whole thing in. And if you don't have Italian seasoning, it's just oregano, thyme, basil, rosemary, sage. So if you have all those separate ingredients, put those in. And then we've got cumin, and you want about ½ teaspoon of cumin, chili powder, and again with this one's almost empty, so I'm just gonna pour the rest in here. That was about 1 teaspoon. And then a little extra basil and a little extra thyme. Okay, stir it all together. And if you're not sure, like I know I hadn't used cumin probably ever before I met my husband, and he loved it. If you're not sure about the taste, it's very earthy, so you could do a little less. If you end up liking the flavor, add some more. It can kind of be hit or miss on whether people love that flavor or not, because it is earthy. All right, this is looking perfect. So we are gonna come back to our island where we have more space to stuff our peppers and add the cheese. I did not forget about the cheese, don't worry. It's right here. Oh, this smells so good. I wish I could transfer smells through a camera. But you will just have to try it for yourself at home. You can find the recipe linked in the description below, or you can go to my blog. It's ourfamilycooks.com, and all the recipes I make on YouTube plus more are on there, so you can definitely go check it out there. I would say would be the easiest. You can also print it off or save it to Pinterest, so lots of things you can do from my blog. We're saving some of the cheese to sprinkle over the top, so that's why I didn't put all of it in there. Hallelujah. Okay, I'm gonna give you a close-up real quick. Let me bring the peppers over, and then I'm gonna get you a close-up of this meat stuffing mix because it just looks so good. Okay, and like I said before, you could definitely keep the peppers in their round, whole shape and just have them sitting in here. For me, personal preference, I like cutting them up. I think they're kind of easier to fill, and then they're easier for like serving sizes. I feel like I can't eat like a whole pepper. So personal preference, doesn't matter. And you will most likely have some of the stuffing left over, which is totally fine because that gives you extras for leftovers. A lot of times I will take one of the peppers, heat it in the air fryer, and also just like put a few more scoops of the stuffing on top of it when I reheat it for leftovers. Don't worry, just put it in a separate container and store it in your fridge. Okay, so we are gonna put these in the oven for 15 minutes, basically just to melt the cheese, finish cooking the peppers, and then these are done and ready to serve. While we wait, let's put some of the stuff away, package it up, and clean. Wow, our peppers are done and they look fantastic. The cheese is perfectly melted. The peppers are they're gonna be nice and crisp and not crunchy anymore. So I would recommend letting it kind of sit and cool for maybe like 5 minutes because they are gonna be super hot. I mean, you could dish them up and then, you know, probably by the time you dish them up and your kids come to eat, it'll be 5 minutes. So you'll probably be good. Let's get you a close up. I hope you try out these peppers at home for yourself. I know you and everyone will love them, especially we're really close to Christmas and almost New Year's coming up. These are a great, healthy protein option if you're one who every New Year you kind of like reset and go back to eating healthy. These will be perfect for that. Seriously, like they're so good, super healthy for you. And if you have like a dinner party, or maybe you have people that are gonna stay for a couple nights and you're like, what do I make for dinner? These would be a great one to impress them. They'd be like, whoa, you did stuffed peppers, that's super fancy. Definitely try these at home. I promise everyone will love them. They're easy on your budget, only $2.50 a serving for 6 people. So good. As always, appreciate you guys, and make sure to like, subscribe, watch more videos that are linked here, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks, y'all.